Hola amigos y amigas de Escuela PCE. En este vídeo vamos a corregir el examen de Inglés PCE del año 2021. ¿Ok? Entonces, os enseñamos lo que tenemos en el examen. Vamos a ver. El examen consiste, well, let's read the instructions. You have 90 minutes to complete the exam. No additional material is permitted. Once the exam starts, you can only talk to an invigilator. Any other type of communication or the use of unauthorized devices or materials will result in the withdrawal of the exam. The latter will be labeled as a legal copy and attached to the invigilator's report. The answers must be written in either blue ink or black ink. Do not use any correction fluid, for example, Tipex, and sheets not provided by the invigilators must not be used. All the answer sheets must be numbered in boxes at the bottom of the sheet. Okay. So this is the general instructions provided for the exam, which these instructions have not changed in the last year. Okay. So I mean, they are the same instructions for the 2019 exam, the 2020 exam, no difference here. All right, grading criteria. The exam consists of two parts. Part one, it consists of 10 questions worth a total of 4 points. Okay, so there has been a change this year. In comparison with the 2020 exam, this part was worth 5 points, half the exam. But in this case, this year, they have reduced the number of points. Now it's 4, and each question is worth, of the 10, each question is worth 0.4 points, okay? So as it says here, 0.4 points are added for a correct answer. 0.15 points are deducted for an incorrect answer. So this is the same, okay? There is no variation here. No points are deducted for a blank response. All right, no variation here either. Answers should be recorded on the OMR answer sheet. It is very important that you read the instructions on how your answers must be recorded. Answers recorded incorrectly will not be taken into account. There is one correct answer for each question, either A or B or C. In part 1A, you must choose an answer 8 out of the 11 years of English questions provided. If you answer more than 8 questions, only the first 8 will be marked. Okay, so they will only take into account the first 8 if you answer 9, 10, or 11 questions. Okay, so as I always say, just answer 8, don't risk it, and you should be okay. All right, part 2, it consists of an essay which is worth 6 points. So they have increased the amount this question is worth by 1 point, okay? So last year it was 5 points, half the exam. In this case, is 60% of the exam. You must write an essay on only one of the 2 subjects provided. They're gonna ask us 2 questions. We have to answer one of them. All right, so let's take a look at the exam. The comprehension question of the text. Read the text and choose the correct answer. You must choose an answer only 2 out of the 3 questions below, 0.4 points each, which is a reminder of what they told us right here. Okay, right there. All right, so let's take a look at the text. Here in red, you can see the evidence for the correct answer, but for the time being, we're going to omit that. At many colleges and universities, from underfunded institutions to top-tier private colleges, many students have found themselves unable to meet basic needs during the coronavirus pandemic. Financial insecurity, previously accelerated by rising rising tuition costs and living expenses has become even more acute because of the closure of campuses and loss of jobs. In response, across the country, students have created mutual aid networks, raising and redistributing tens of thousands of dollars to help their peers cover housing, medical costs, food, and other essentials. Generally, students send in requests for small amounts of money, and network organizers will send them the funds using payment apps like Venmo. The pandemic has obviously exacerbated a lot of the inequalities that exist on college campuses, said Neha Chalapragada, 19, a sophomore who helped start an aid network at Rice University. That's really been a painful experience for a lot of students. Students have been laid off from their jobs, or they've had to take on new responsibilities because of losses in family income, perhaps due to COVID-related layoffs. At some schools, students who depend on dorms for housing have struggled after their campuses closed. We're trying to fulfill a lot of the needs that have been exacerbated or are there in a greater degree due to the pandemic, Ms. Talapragada said. At its core, mutual aid is a form of charity in which neighbors or peers work together to help each other out on a case-by-case basis. The term is often attributed to mutual aid, a factor of evolution, a 1902 essay collection by the Russian social theorist Peter Kropotkin, who argued that voluntary cooperation has been the key to the flourishing of human civilization. Not all of the paid networks operate in the same way. At Rice, aid recipients must provide a school ID number, while at Vanderbilt University, students and alumni have created a network for sharing temporary housing in addition to their cash distribution efforts. At Northeastern University, organizers aren't distributing money at all. Instead, they use donations to stock a free food pantry and distribute personal protective equipment on campus. Giving out money is not something that we're opposed to, but it isn't something that we've been asked for by students, said Madalena Loco, 21, a junior at Northeastern who has helped with the organizing. The aid networks are entirely student-run, operating outside of any college administration oversight. At Georgetown University, students donate cash to a central Venmo account, according to one of the founders, Megan Hume, 20. Then we have a funding request form for students in need, both undergrads and graduate students, to request basically like a micro grant of $50 to $100, she said, and we just send them the money, no questions asked. To date, the Georgetown Mutual Aid Network has raised $25,000 from current students and some alumni and has distributed $20,000. The money, which is meant to be used for textbooks or weekly groceries, medication, things like that, has been raised from more than 900 donors, Ms. Huyn said. So it's really shown the power of small grassroots movements. Sarah Goldrick-Reb, a sociology professor at Temple University who studies college affordability, said, these mutual aid networks are springing up because the new economics of college, which is what I tend to call it, puts students at a significant economic disadvantage. All right, so the first question says, according to the text, students in prestigious universities have not been affected by the pandemic. This is not correct, okay? Because What does it say here? At many colleges and universities, from underfunded institutions to top-tier private colleges, many students have found themselves unable to meet basic needs during the coronavirus pandemic. So top-tier in private colleges refers to this, that is asking in prestigious universities. So they have been affected. So A is not correct. B, financial insecurity was never experienced before the pandemic. We don't have any statement like that. Okay, so financial insecurity, previously accelerated by rising tuition cost and living expenses, has become even more acute because of the closure on campuses and loss of jobs. So what B says here, financial insecurity was never experienced before the pandemic, is not true. So the only remaining answer is the students decided to raise funds to help their peers. Okay, so by discarding, C has to be the correct one. Now, that being said, the evidence is found here. In response, across the country, students have created mutual aid networks, raising and redistributing tens of thousands of dollars to help their peers cover housing, medical costs, food, and other essentials. So there you go. Okay, 1C is the answer. All right, 2. According to the text, the pandemic has aggravated disparity in the student population. Okay, this is the correct answer. Let's take a look at the other ones. The closure of campuses had no effect on the student housing. This is not correct. Now, here, what does it say? Here. At some schools, students who depend on dorm for housing have struggled after their campuses closed. So, okay, the closure of campuses had no effect on the student houses? Not correct. The pandemic allowed students to concentrate on academic issues. It doesn't say anything like that in the entire text. So the answer is A, the pandemic has aggravated disparity in the student population. Where can we see the evidence? The evidence is right here. The pandemic has obviously exacerbated a lot of the inequalities that exist on college campuses. That is the evidence, okay, for the answer. Exacerbated meaning aggravated, increased. There you go. So 2A. 3, according to the text, here the answer is A, mutual aid is based on the desire to help peers who are in need. Georgetown, let's take a look at the others. Georgetown University has distributed a quarter of the money raised. A quarter means 1/4, okay, which is, if we look at Georgetown, okay, Georgetown University, it's here, has raised $25,000 and has distributed 20,000. So 1/4, no, this is way more. This is almost, I don't know, maybe like 90%. So it's not 1/4, it's not 25%. Okay, so that is not the correct answer. All right, only students are supposed to contribute to mutual aid. That is not correct either, because we are mentioning students and alumni, but there is no limitation. Anyone can contribute to that. Okay, remember, alumni refers to former students, so graduate students, anybody who has finished their studies at university, or maybe they are in postgraduate students studies. Okay, so and here we have 900 donors. We don't know, so C is not correct either. Mutual aid is based on the desire to help peers who are in need, and that is the correct answer. The evidence is here. Then we have a funding request form for students in need, both undergraduates and graduate students, to request basically like a micro grant of $50 to $100, they said, and we just send them the money, no questions asked. So there we go. Okay. So remember, you must answer just 2. So you can answer 1 and 2, 1 and 3, or 2 and 3. Okay? Don't answer the 3 of them, because if you have 1 incorrect, then first of all, they're going to check only 1 and 2. And let's say that you answer in 1 A or B, or in 2 B or C, then instead of, so you have 1 correct and 1 incorrect, okay? Because you answer the 3 of them, it doesn't matter. They're not going to look at 3, even if it's correct. So if you answer the 3 of them and you have one of the first two incorrectly. Instead of having 0.4, because this one would be 0.4 here, points, and this one will be 0.4 again. Okay, instead of having 0.8, if you fail one, you will have 0.4 minus 0.15. So you don't want to risk it. Okay, having 3 correct. So just answer 2, that's it. Okay, not even if you are 100% sure. I wouldn't risk it. Okay, answer 2 questions and there you go. All right. Use of English. Choose the correct answer. You must choose an answer only 8 out of the 11 questions below. All right, so question 4. Someone spilled red wine on the carpet, and it's worn is not correct because even though a carpet can be worn out from use, okay, is not correct. Cracked, you don't use cracked for carpets. You can use cracked for a crack window, a crack glass, I don't know, some other material, but not a carpet. So since the wine was spilled, then stained is the answer. Now there is a stain on the carpet, so the carpet is stained. Okay. So 4B. 5. Nobody answering the phone doesn't, and here the answer is necessarily, surely, or wholly. Yeah, correct answer is necessarily. Doesn't necessarily mean there's no one there. Okay, necessarily is the answer. Does it surely mean? Not correct. Does it wholly mean? Not correct. Okay, necessarily is the correct answer. Moving on, 6. Never here, they are beginning the sentence with never. Okay, and never is to give emphasis. If you start a sentence with a negative, like never here, in this case is an adverb of a time expression referring to nunca, right? So the opposite to always. So if you start with never, in this case, you have to make an inversion of the subject and verb. Okay, so never saw I, not correct, because we need a perfect tense, not a simple tense. We don't have any indication. This saw is past simple. We don't have any indication of when this happened in the past, so past simple doesn't work. So we need present perfect. Option B and C both are present perfect. But the thing is, since we start with never, we need an inversion. So C is the correct answer. Never have I seen so much snow in Madrid. 7. No sooner had I left. No sooner had I left. This is another type of construction. In this case, the correct answer is than. I heard them laughing. So what does this sentence mean? I just left, but I was so close that I could hear them laughing. So their laughing and my leaving happened almost simultaneously, like we're talking about seconds difference. Okay, that is not the correct answer, and definitely we need something. So A, they offer us the possibility of writing nothing. It's not correct. C is the correct answer. 8. I think their house is nice, but it's got too much stuff in. Okay, and here we have a response. So we don't have to do a reporter speech, it's just responding to the statement. I know. What you think, not correct. What you say, not correct. I know what you mean is the correct answer, which means I understand you. Okay, I agree with you and I understand you. I know what you mean. That's the expression. Okay, 9. The famous dodo, which lived on the island of Madagascar. And here we have 3 verbs: turned, became, or goes. Okay, goes is not correct because it's present simple. Okay, we will need it in past. Went. If they had given us went, it would be okay. Went extinct in the 17th century, owing to the hunting by European settlers. That would be okay. But we don't have that option. So it has to be between turned and became, both of them in past. You don't turn extinct, you become extinct. Okay, so became is the correct answer. It's a matter of collocation. All right, 10. He's had his car. Okay, we don't know what could continue so far. So will this be a passive causative? I don't know. We will have to wait. When he passed his driving test, not correct, because he has had. Okay, so it's present perfect, an action that starts in the past continues into the present. So when he started, no. If we had simple past here instead of present perfect, then when will be okay. Okay, but we don't have that. As he passed his driving test, meaning simultaneously, not correct. Since indicating when the action started. When did it start? When he passed his driving test, he had his car. So that's it. Since is the correct answer. 11. I don't think Paris is as dangerous like London. No, we're a comparative. This is a comparative. This is not correct. So dangerous as London? Not correct. As dangerous as London, because I don't think. Okay, I don't think. So it's a negative comparison. London, according to this sentence, is more dangerous than Paris. Okay, so C is the answer. 12. He can't work out. He has to go to get the information he needs. So he can't, he has to go. He has to go. So that is location, place. Okay, whom and who refer to people. Where refers to place. So where is the answer? Okay, he can't work out where he has to go to get the information he needs. 13. Choose the right option. Okay, the painting sold for 3,000 euros. Not correct, because paintings are objects. Okay, they cannot sell things. Also, what did the painting sell? We have no idea. Okay, so A is not correct. C, the painting was selling for 3,000 euros. Why past continuous? We will need more context here for this sentence to work. Without the context, this sentence does not work. B is the answer. The painting was sold for 3,000 euros. This is a passive. Okay, so the active will be someone sold the painting for 3,000 euros. That will be the active sentence, or the owner. We don't know, because we don't have the buy here in the passive, so we don't know who did it. It's not important. Okay, that's why we have a passive. Okay, so B is the answer. 14. Which word means the same or nearly the same as accurate? Loose is not correct. Inexact, not correct. It's precisely the opposite. Precise. That's it. Accurate is precise. All right, that is the correct answer. Now, part 2. They have increased 2 things. It says write an essay of 150, 180 words. Okay, so they have increased the number of words, which is fine. More space to write on one of the following subjects. That is the same as last year. They give us 2 options. We have to choose one. 6 points. This is different. They have increased it. Okay, last year it was 5 points. Now it's 6. So the writing has become even more important. Okay, just by passing the part 2, you can get 60% of the mark. So you can pass the exam with the writing alone. Okay, while last year the reading and use of English, if you had a perfect score, you would have already passed the exam. In this year, no. Okay, you can only get a 4 in this case. A 4 in the reading and use of English section, so not enough to pass the exam. Okay, so preparing the writing is paramount in this case. Okay, what are the 2 questions? What would you do if you didn't have enough money to pay your bills? Provide as many details as possible. Okay, obviously, provide as many details as possible. As many details as possible in 150, 180 words. Of course, you could write maybe 100 pages. Or what would you do? providing details, of course, but we cannot do that, obviously. Second question, if you could go back to some time and place in the past, when and where would you go? Why? Use the specific reasons and details to support your choice. Okay, so two answers to develop. Fairly similar in the philosophy of the two of them. Okay, what they ask from us, two essay questions. I have written a couple of suggested answers. So the suggested answer for option A. This is what I wrote. Not being able to make ends meet is a troublesome thing which can bring about problems. When that unfortunate situation presents itself, one needs to find solutions. All right, so this will serve as an introduction. Okay, I'm telling the reader, I'm going to talk about this. All right, this is the topic, not having enough money to pay the bills. And what are the solutions? We'll see. All right, so in this case, 3 paragraphs, we don't have the space for more. To begin with, the first thing I would do, it's okay to use the personal I because they're asking, what would you do? Okay, they're asking you, what would you do? So it's okay. All right, so to begin with, the first thing I would do to try and get the required money to pay my bills will be to ask my parents for it. Fortunately for me, my parents have no money problems and they will be very happy to help me out. So this is all hypothetical. They would be, okay? The first thing I would do, okay, is all would be to ask my parents. It's all hypothetical. All right, the entire text is hypothetical. However, I understand that they cannot be saving me constantly. Thus, another thing I will do is reduce the amount of money I spend on unnecessary things, such as video games. Here, I offer a total of 3, okay? 3 options, 3 things I would do, giving details, all right? Finally, I offered like one thing I buy that is not necessary, video games, all right? So I would reduce that. Okay, finally, here we could have used other verbs instead of reduce, cut down on. That would be a phrasal verb, an expression, it's fine. Finally, if that did not work out either, I would look for a part-time or weekend job which could help me to bring home more money and pay the bills. And then just a conclusion. To conclude, I believe that one can do anything one sets his or her mind on. Their mind on will be acceptable as well. In my case, I have always been able to pay my bills, but if one day I am not, I will definitely look for a solution to my predicament. Okay, predicament means problem. So that will be a suggested answer for option A. It doesn't mean this has to be the correct, only valid answer. This is just a suggested answer. How many words? In this case, 177. So we are within the word limit, okay? Overpassing the word limit shouldn't be too much of a problem, but I will advise not to do it. And if you do it, don't overpass it in more than 10 words, 15 words, okay? All right, but nice organization, coherence, we're answering the questions, we're doing the question, we're doing everything they ask us to do. So this should be a nice answer. Okay, suggested answer for option B. If you could go back to some time and place in the past, when and where would you go? Why? Use specific reasons and details to support your choice. Okay, so being able to time travel has been one of humanity's dreams. That capacity will allow endless possibilities both in the future and the past. In my case, if I could time travel where and when I wanted, I will go to the United States West Coast to cities such as San Francisco or Los Angeles during the 1960s and 1970s. When I see films whose story take place there and then, I always feel jealous of the characters. It was a time when Hollywood was awesome, many great movies of different genres were produced, and actors such as James Dean, Bruce Lee, or Marilyn Monroe were still alive. Also, writers such as Truman Capote or Alec Ginsberg were writing their best novels and poems. One can see the glamour these famous stars had and how people enjoyed good music, alcohol, freedom, and love. Two good examples would be the films Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Forrest Gump, in which all these things are portrayed. In conclusion, being able to time travel will be an amazing thing to do, either to the past or to the future. There are many epochs worth seeing and experiencing. Okay, so here we have another answer, 3 paragraphs, an intro, a body, longer explaining, and then a conclusion. Okay, again, I am not saying this is the best answer possible, but this will be a nice answer which will grant us a good score in the exam, okay, or the only possible answer. All right, so this is my take in the exam, in the 2021 PCE exam, and espero que hayáis sacado una excelente nota todos los alumnos de este año, y os deseo lo mejor. Y si necesitáis si tenéis alguna duda, alguna clase, algo más que necesitéis consultar, siempre podéis preguntarnos en Escuela PCE, y como siempre estaremos encantadísimos de ayudaros en todo lo que podamos. Un saludo y buena suerte a los que hayáis hecho el examen este año.